It's been high stress, but Pitt is now the ACC Coastal Champions and will be making their way to Charlotte, North Carolina for a battle with somebody from the Atlantic Division. But before that, they have to go against the Syracuse Orange at the Carrier Dome in the final game of the season. Is this possible to be overlooked? We'll discuss that and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today.
Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world! Hail to Pitt.
Pickett, play action fake. He rolls right. Pickett throws the ball down the field, and the pass is caught. And that is Addison on his way. He's going to score a touchdown. He took it away from the defender. The defender tried to steal that ball. Johnson went in there and said, "It's my ball." And guess what? Addison said, "No, my ball, my touchdown. Turn out the lights."
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of November 27th, 2021, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Vince.
Coastal champs and bound for Charlotte, North Carolina. The most achievable achievement we could conceive for the 2021 Pitt Panthers has been achieved, Vince, but the season ain't over yet.
Nope. As great as it was last weekend winning that Coastal Championship, there is one more task to go in this regular season for that all-elusive 10-win regular season.
Oh, man, I never realized how badly I want Pitt to win 10 games in a season. And now I'm at that point. I got the Coastal, but I really want that 10. It almost defeats the purpose of going to Charlotte without that number 10 in the win column. I want this one badly this week, Vince. I don't know about you. We got to preview it, look back at that UVA game, a magical Bundy event that you had the honor of being at. So jealous. 2 amazing games in a row at Heinz Field, and now they got to go over to that dump in Syracuse. But it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's a fun one. There's been some rather closer than needed games played up there, at least in recent history. So we'll be getting into all that in a little bit, but just extremely excited and can't afford a let up this week.
No, and can we purchase our Coastal Division champs gear yet? Would you? Or are you holding off for ACC champs?
I am holding off.
Superstitious. I like it. Pat Narduzzi was not. He had the black Coastal champs hat on on top of another hat after the game. Walking on the field, showed his love to Bronco Mendenhall. But I'm holding off too. Let us know though at H2P Show. Did you buy your Coastal Division champion gear? Do you have any from a few years ago? Let us know at H2P Show on Twitter if you want to hit us up on social media. And of course, email hail2pittpodcast@gmail.com. That's hail the number 2 pittpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate all the interactions we get on the Pitternet, especially when we're on Panther Lair or Reddit or Twitter. It's always fun interacting with Pitt fans, especially when the mood is so pleasant. Everybody's just putting out memes about Kenny Pickett's hair and the Heisman and winning the division. It's a good feeling right now. And like we said on last week's show, I think it was last week's show, Vince, having that kind of mood at Heinz Field are going to be rare for a while, or at any field in the city. So this is one we need to savor for sure.
Yeah, I think so. It's not going so well at the moment on the other side of the South Side facility. There's a little bit of revival happening at PPG Paints. We'll see. At the Peterson Event Center, there's a lot of struggling at the moment, and certainly at that PNC Park ballpark. There's not a whole lot of hope there ever.
Oh, there's a lot of hope for some big concerts. That's what I'm looking forward. Maybe the Rolling Stones will come back and play there.
There's a lot of hope.
REO Speedwagon sticks.
There's a lot of hope for revenue, but not necessarily championships, I'll say.
No. But Pitt's got the championship, the little championship. They got the bigger one coming up. Let's do it. We are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. And to tell you something about them, they help us put this show together. They can help you put your own show together. You get your own producer, editor, confidant, a friend, a podcasting pal, whatever you need to get your podcast going. You just focus on your show. Pretty Easy Podcast takes care of it. It's really, really beneficial to the startup podcaster. I'll tell you, getting the show started, getting into the chair and just talking Pitt, so easy every single week. All the help we could ask for, and you could get it too at an affordable rate. You know, we're not forking out a ton to be putting shows together. You don't need to either. No one does. That's why you could go to prettyeasypodcast.com. Sound good and have fun podcasting today.
Yeah, and they make podcasting pretty easy.
Damn good podcasting firm, if you ask me. Damn good firm we got at the University of Pittsburgh this year. I'm proud to say the Pitt football team is a damn good football team. Resilient, Vince. And when they need big games from certain players, they get them. Whoa, Bundy, Jordan Addison, 4 touchdowns, 1 game, unbelievable, 202 yards. It was magical. I was waiting for that 4th touchdown all game long. Every throw that went from us, I was putting the 4 up all game long after he already had 3, and it was a while. I think he had his 3rd. Was it in the 3rd quarter? Maybe he was sitting on 3 for a minute, and then the 4th one came magical. You heard the call from Billy Hillgrove on his birthday, the beginning of the show, the touchdown. I don't know, from your vantage point at the stadium, Vince, I thought it was picked. Jordan Addison went out there and Al Bundy'd that thing.
It certainly looked like it. Just a wild play. A great block by Danny Carter. Should not go unnoticed there to get Kenny Pickett the opportunity to throw that ball. He actually had that Bartholomew guy open for what probably would have been a first down. Maybe Pitt could have ran out the clock at that point, but Kenny Pickett said, no, I'm going to Jordan Addison. I know he's coming down with this football here. And then he just took it to the house after that.
He said, whoa, Bundy, give me that Addison. And they scored, and it was unreal, putting it away, 48-38. And at that point, too, I mean, just watching Kenny, it was a difficult game for him. It wasn't easy. Nope. And it should have been. It was a bad defense. So that's the kind of bummer about this one, is in terms of his Heisman hopes, I don't know where he stands, really. Who knows with these voters this year? Tough call. I'm sure he's getting the love on social, so he's got a shot at it. But this game didn't do him a lot of favors statistically. Well, but if they go by intangibles, I mean, the guts he showed.
Well, Alan, I mean, he still did put up 340 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. The picks negate some of that.
Yeah, the one was not good. The one at the was a little meaningless, I suppose. So from that standpoint, I'm not going to hold those picks against him too much. I mean, he's still done excellent over the course of the season. And Pitt did put up 48 points in this game, Alan. So almost half 100 on this Virginia team. And, and they needed almost all those 48 points. And sometimes, for that Heisman Trophy, I mean, this may sound a little, contradictory to what you would want, but sometimes you need those, closer games. You need those big moments to win a Heisman Trophy. That kind of stuff. People will remember that for sure if they watch this game. That big moment at the end. It's gonna be difficult for him to win it, but I think he's doing stuff each and every week to at least cement himself as somebody who will be at the final ceremony.
I mean, that's the kind of Heisman we all love the most, right? Our favorite Heismans are guys who their team has adversity and they show up as an elite leader. They show up with a big play when it's needed most. They maybe don't have the cleanest game. They don't go through the season like a hot knife through butter. It's, not everybody needs to be, Herschel Walker just cleanly running over people and through defenses. Sometimes you get great Heisman years, and that you think of players that are like Tim Tebow, like Joe Burrow's season, where it was a monster. They had monster years. They put up huge numbers, but it wasn't easy all the time. And Kenny's having that kind of year. It's not easy all the time. It's not always pretty, but it's damn good elite. It's elite college football being played by the Pitt quarterback right now. And let's hope he's not too banged up, because he got banged up in this one too. That was very concerning. And he could keep it up for 2 more games.
Yeah. I like what you said, Alan. It hasn't necessarily been easy. I know they've made it look easy at times. They had some blowout wins, but they're playing some tough hombres, specifically a quarterback down the stretch here. And I'll say this: if you look at quarterback.
BA showed up.
BA, Sam Howell the previous week. I mean, if you look around the country, ACC's got some of the best quarterbacks going, maybe the best collection as far as I'm concerned. But you also look at, Kenny, this offense, your whole starting right side of your offensive line out for this game. You're missing 3 wide receivers who have contributed for you this year, out for the game, out for the past few games. But relying on Jordan Addison, Kenny Pickett's playmaking, they found ways to do it, using more 2 tight end sets, maybe using more 2 running back sets. They're doing all they can. The pass blocking on that right side of the offensive line, not great in this game, but not good. But they found a way to make the plays. They made adjustments. They designed plays around it, and they made the big plays when they had to. So I think from that standpoint, it just makes it look even more impressive. Now, will voters be looking at that kind of stuff as closely as we are? Probably not. I'm not saying that other players around the country haven't had to deal with anything like that, but it shouldn't be understated how much Kenny in this offense had to deal with, especially late in the season. The depth has been tested.
Absolutely, yeah. There's been really moments throughout the season where Kenny Pickett had to go out and be a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback for Pitt to win football games, and he did it. And then also Pitt's offensive line and the running game has had to get going in a lot of fourth quarters this year. And again, we get Hammond in the second half, plowing away for a very memorable 66 yards. You had Izzy contributing with the touchdown. Davis goes for 100 yards. So great group effort there. What was with the Abanikanda, though? Do we have an official word on if he was just injured in the second half or just benched?
I haven't really heard anything, and those other guys had the hot hand. I mean, Vincent Davis, I believe, only 12 carries in this game and still went for 100 yards. So, and that's kind of I think Coach was just rolling with the guys that he had. I mean, Abanikanda, he was a little banged up, the previous game a little bit. So maybe there's still some lingering stuff there. Not sure. Pass pro, Alan, which I know you're very big on. Abanikanda may be the worst of the 3 there. And we saw in that last play how critical it is. So maybe that contributed a little bit to it. I'm not sure, but, Pitt's running back depth is just been on point so far. And you look at next year, Alan, I mean, you could have all 3 of these guys coming back, plus a Danny Carter. So that's I think the backfield is in good hands for years to come.
Yeah, the backfield is looking sharp, and I'm expecting huge things in the next couple of weeks from them too. Do you know that it's just like in the fourth quarter of games, Pitt runs well. The fourth quarter of the season, the end of the season, maybe just like last year against Georgia Tech, we'll see one of those crazy on the ground performances where maybe they don't even need Kenny Pickett to go and do ridiculous things with his legs and his arm. And, he's gone through this whole season. He's definitely feeling it, I'm sure, and hopefully he could keep it together. But man, it was a struggle to watch the end of that game, watching him scramble for his life at the end of that. So it needs to be cleaned up, and they kind of did at the end. They, like you said, schemed a little bit and made play calls to make up for some deficiencies in the pass protection, play action on that final touchdown. And, that's going to be interesting to see what they do. And I think they're going to go out against Syracuse, and we're going to get into the preview in just a moment, but they're going to be thinking about, not only protecting health, but getting Kenny that game tape maybe to go to New York, and also definitively getting that 10-win season that we want so desperately. But before we go ahead, I do want to also look at the Virginia offense, what they did to the Pitt defense, Vince. Horrible showing, and I don't know how much you could chalk it up to Servassier Dennis getting tossed out for targeting early in the game on the first drive, I think it was. But Brennan Armstrong, a guy's playing with recently broken or cracked ribs.
I don't know if I don't think they were broken. I'll say that.
You think that was all a ruse to lull Pitt into a false sense of security for this one, so he could put up nearly 500 on him?
Well, I do think that there was some gamesmanship there. I think they purposely held him out of that Notre Dame game that they had the week before. Because you're talking about a guy who couldn't throw the ball, and then all of a sudden is back to his old form there.
I love that. Treating big out of conference games like their preseason games, because all they do is care about their ACC record.
Yeah,
that quarterback against Notre Dame.
That seemed to be the case, and Pat Narduzzi did say in his press conference at the beginning of the week that he expected him to play. Not that really helped very much here, because still gave up 487 yards passing here, Alan. And we talked about how this was, not necessarily, that this was a very difficult matchup for Pitt, specifically with those big tight ends that Virginia has, moving those guys all over the field. Pitt had a very difficult time stopping them, for sure.
That Jelani Woods run.
Oh my goodness!
Just plowing through half the Pitt defense was scary to watch.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. This Virginia offense is very good. They've put up a lot of points on a lot of people this season. So I'm not saying Pitt's defense played great, but they obviously played good enough. They made the stops when they had to. They made splash plays when they had to. 5 sacks, 8 TFLs in this game. But you got to think, if Virginia had any sort of defense at all, maybe we'd be talking about them as the with a 9-2 record, winning the Coastal Division. I mean, I think very highly of their offense. I thought very highly of it before we played them. But Pitt did what they had to, maybe making them one-dimensional a little bit. Only 66 yards rushing for Virginia in this ball game. But they are tough to stop, Alan. And we talked about this is just a tough matchup. I'm not sure how unless you have some finely tuned athletic machines on defense, some real specimens. How do you cover these guys?
Yeah, you definitely can't be missing your best middle linebacker.
Yeah,
and
I hate to interrupt you, Alan, but we talked about a few weeks ago Wendell Davis, the backup middle linebacker, transferring out of the program in the middle of the season. We didn't really have too much information as to why that was the case, but you got to think he would have stepped right in and played this game. He would have stepped it right in and probably played most of the game, and that we probably would have felt a little bit more comfortable having a backup there who's really been with the program and playing in that particular position. But we didn't have that here, and the defense had to kind of adjust on the fly.
They were really ass over tea kettle, play calling wise, execution wise. I mean, you see Pitt goes out there, gets a big score, and then immediately Virginia goes 2 plays down the field like nothing and scores, and this game is all of a sudden terrifying again, and it takes a ridiculous Bolitnikovian game, Bundy-esque game from Jordan Addison and Kenny Pickett doing Heisman shit. That's what it takes.
Yeah,
because the defense was just so really just discombobulated, and like you said, who could blame them? I mean, Dontavian Wicks, absurd wide receiver. I mean, if it weren't for Jordan Addison's game, that we'd be all talking about what an amazing player he is. He went for nearly $150. You got that Thompson also had over 10 catches, just dominating and running on Pitt a little too. And then, I mean, I don't know why they don't throw. I mean, you know why they have all those other weapons, but that Jelani Woods guy is a freak.
Yeah,
he is a monster of a human being, and so it's I guess permissible. 38 actually to this team maybe isn't even that bad considering Dennis wasn't playing in the game, Vince, and it was a 10-point victory. Maybe we shouldn't get too upset about it.
I'm not too upset. I mean, when your offense is performing like they are, and you were able to answer. I mean, this is just a tough team to stop. I mean, I think maybe Armstrong not playing against Notre Dame has clouded everybody's vision of this Virginia offense because they only scored 3 points there with their backup, but it's clearly seen if you have a quality quarterback that can get these guys the ball, they're going to hurt you.
So before we move on to Syracuse now, where do you rank this in terms of your favorite wins for this season and the best wins of this season?
Oh man,
where does that one rank?
I
feel like the best win of the season.
I don't think this is the best win, but
is I don't know. Maybe at Tennessee still was even though it was a little close for comfort. I don't know. That's a tough call. At H2P show, definitely want to get feedback from the listeners on what they think the best quality win for Pitt was this year.
I mean, maybe beating Clemson in the way that the fashion that they did. And you look at Clemson, they're playing a whole lot better now. They're ranked in the top 25. There's still a chance that we're going to be playing them again. We'll be talking about that at the end of the show. But, that's still a very impressive win. I still think that's the best win, beating Clemson, how they did. And my favorite win, I don't know. Probably beating North Carolina. I just can't stand those guys
in the rain. I mean, I don't know. I don't really chalk that up as a win so much as it was a gift.
You might be right.
Let's talk about Syracuse though, because this one is not going to be easy. It never is at that really shabby looking dome in New York. What do we know about Syracuse? Well, their running back's a badass, Sean Tucker, and we know that they're trying to become bowl eligible while Pitt is trying to get to 10 wins. I don't see any need to rest anybody, Vince, because why? I mean, you're playing for an ACC championship, but really the risk is worth it. Having 10 wins, if you're Pat Narduzzi going into a championship game, huge, I think, for your career. Having 10 wins for the confidence of the team, huge. For Kenny Pickett's Heisman hopes, huge. Like, there's a lot to play for here.
I agree with you. And I'll say this. Say they don't win the ACC championship game. I think everybody's going to be a little disappointed for sure. But, if you win this Syracuse game and you finish the regular season with 10 wins, which would be for the first time since 1981, I think at that point you've exceeded everybody's realistic expectations here. And that would just be a major accomplishment. And I think that would be, I'm not saying that losing the ACC championship game would not matter, but I think, everybody would say, hey, they got the job done this season for the most part with a 10-win season. And I think that's something that, to something to really build on for the future of this program. Because, and we'll be talking about it certainly, once the season comes to a close. But there are going to be a lot of good pieces, a lot of good players left on this roster, and I think they're going to have the potential to do this again next year. But they got to get to it first. They got to get this 10-win season. I think it's extremely important for the perception of the program to hit that 10-2 mark.
Absolutely. And I'm willing to call it the greatest Pitt team in my lifetime if they get to 10, because they've never done it in my lifetime. So Pitt fans of a certain age.
Yeah.
Vince, I mean, this is, if you're of a certain age and, you're not one of the old timers that we all grew up listening to tell us stories about the great teams and winning national titles of the 70s and early 80s. If you're of a certain age after that, this is it. In terms of the best Pitt teams you've seen, it's damn near close to it. And we know when they get to the precipice, in our lifetime at least, failure tends to creep its head in. And a lot of people have been waiting for that this season. It really has been avoided, but it can really ruin the season, this game. I would not like to see Pitt lose this game at all, and they should win. Sean Tucker, though, first and foremost, stopping the run. I guess it's a good thing Dennis got that targeting early in the game because he's playing, so they're going to need him. Sean Tucker is a monster of a running back. He cannot be understated. He is arguably, if it weren't for Kenny Pickett, the best player in the ACC. When you're averaging over 6 yards per carry, you're legit. And I can't wait to see this, Vince, because has Pitt faced a team with an elite running back and running game this season? Quality, sure, but nothing like terrifying.
Well,
that's pretty scary.
Yeah, that Shipley for Clemson, number one. I think that guy, for a freshman, I think he's got a tremendous amount of talent. No doubt about that. But doesn't quite have the production of a Tucker here.
No.
This guy has just, and especially with no threat of a passing game whatsoever, this guy has still been able to put up huge numbers.
Yeah, that's also the scary thing, because they don't have a passing game at all, like you said. They're coming out here with a quarterback, Garrett Schrader, who's thrown 7 touchdowns this season.
Jeez.
I mean, BA, Brennan Armstrong, almost threw that many against Pitt in one game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a favorable matchup, and one we hopefully don't have to worry about. A team just shredding Pitt through the air, down the middle of the field, and then also deep. It's really going to be a different kind of game plan defensively than they had to have. I mean, even with Clemson, who's been, pretty stagnant through the air, they have the threat of going downfield, and they have really elite receivers. There's nothing really on Syracuse that scares you through the air. So can Pitt afford to just load up and try to stop Tucker?
Well, that's kind of Pitt's goes right into their wheelhouse, so to speak. They're looking to stop the run first. They're looking to make the quarterback make tough throws. So you'd think Pitt's defense would be able to really hone in on that. But to that same point, you got to think every defense Syracuse has gone against has had that same game plan. And this guy is still running all over everybody. Now, Syracuse is only 5-6. It's not like they've had a tremendous amount of success this year. But in terms of lining up and stopping somebody, I think Pitt's built to do that. Like you said, tackling Allen, this defensive line, they got to be ready. Servassier, Dennis, and company, they got to be able to get after it and bring this guy down.
Absolutely. That's a fun thing, I think, whenever you're a defensive coordinator and you're game planning, and really it's just honing in on one guy. that's really, it makes it easier, but also it's very difficult because they are very good. Like you said, everybody's been having that game plan against Syracuse. Stop their damn run and just don't turn the ball over. And it's simple to say, but yeah, could be difficult to execute, especially when we're talking about playing in that damn dome that has been kind of, I want to say it's a dome of horrors per se, Vince, because Pitt can win there, but it's not ever just a simple, just smash and grab job going to Syracuse. It's gonna be rough, and they can also present problems defensively for Kenny Pickett in the offense.
Yeah, they can. They run this 3-man front, Alan, which is a little unique for a 3-man front in that these guys aren't that big. They're not these giants that you would expect to see in a 3-4.
No great big fat nose guard.
No, they don't. These guys are under 300 pounds, led by Cody Roscoe, 7.5 sacks for this guy on the season. So that's what they're looking at. Even though they may be a little undersized, they obviously got a lot of quickness, a lot of explosiveness. They're going to be getting after Kenny Pickett. That offensive line is going to be tested. The running game is going to be tested this week. So all that stuff we've seen starting with that second half against North Carolina and last week against Virginia, the pass pro, that's got to get cleaned up and in a hurry.
Absolutely. That is going to be one thing to keep an eye on when Pitt's on offense is injuries on the offensive line, and then also how Mark Whipple maybe schemes out Kenny Pickett out of harm's way. Can't afford to have Kenny Pickett under duress like he was in the fourth quarter all throughout this game, because then the ACC championship will be in jeopardy. So you do think of the future in that regard, but you also need to be going out there and putting a show on if you're Kenny Pickett. Do you think he's thinking about it? He has to be. He's an athlete. He wants it. He's on the cusp, going out there and saying, I could get to New York if I just play well in New York.
Yeah, well, I think he knows, and it's no secret that the Heisman Trophy is a team award as well, not just an individual award. And the quarterback on a 10-2 team that's will be in the top 20. That's in the top 20. And, who knows, winning that ACC championship game, how high they could climb. And you're the quarterback and you're putting up huge numbers like you are, and you got some hype around you. I mean, anything can happen. But I think he certainly is. He knows, I think, that, yes, he has to put on a big show to get that award. But I think he also knows he's got to put on a big show to help the team win too, and I think that's more important.
Pitt hasn't won by more than 7 at the Carrier Dome in 10 years. That's a stat that hopefully will be rectified with Pitt being favored by 13 as of now, right now, Vince?
Yep.
13-point favorite, even though they're missing a leader on defense in Brandon Hill for the first half, who also had targeting in the UVA game. Could that affect how Pitt plugs holes in against the run? That we'll see. That first half could be a rough going without Brandon Hill. I mean, that's an important player, especially in the secondary, and also a vocal leader. So, man, targeting sucks. I hate that rule so much. And I don't know. His seemed like he was kind of trying to avoid it, but I don't know. It's too fast of a game to penalize guys like this into the future. And now Pitt's without an important player, an important safety at the end of the year again.
Yeah. Not a great situation there. Coach very upset about that. Said they haven't been called for targeting all year, and now all of a sudden they got 2 targeting penalties in one game. I don't think Pitt's gonna necessarily do anything different without Hill in there. But he is certainly the best guy we got at the safety position. Maybe the best guy in the whole secondary, to be honest. So I expect, we'll have to just weather the storm in the first half, and then he'll be back in the second half.
Pitt and Syracuse, huge college football game. 10 wins on the line, Heisman on the line, 7:30 p.m. on Saturday. Check your local listings. It's on the ACC network, so obviously not the biggest game of the weekend for ESPN, but you'd think they'd flex it to a more respectable channel with Kenny so close to the Heisman, Vince.
Yeah, that is a little disappointing. Although there are, there's some games with very high implications around the country. But that is some one thing I did hear some complaints about this week, Alan. Now that you mention it, was Kenny Pickett have not been on network television all year.
Would he be the first Heisman winner to ever do that?
Well, probably. Although, that ACC championship game will be at 8 p.m. prime time on ABC. So, he eventually will get on there, and that is before the voting closes. So he will have one game, but it's only one, and it's not till the very end.
Wow. Imagine if it all comes down to that game and he's finally got his stage. The stage to be set for Kenny. He just has to get by Syracuse.
Do you think if Kenny wins the Heisman Trophy, we'll be calling him like Mr. Cable Television?
Yeah, Mr. Cable, Kenny the Cable guy.
He's kind of like Ted Turner. He's just propping up Cable.
He's the greatest cable quarterback of all time in college football. Kenny Pickett. By God, doing Heisman shit. Hopefully against Syracuse. We'll predict the game in just a little bit. But let's get into cyberspace now, Vince, because there's a lot of talk. When you win, everybody talks about you, whether they're fans of your team or not. Everybody's talking about Pitt. Let's get into it on the Pitternet.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
Joe McGarrick, or Macarack, on Panther Lair, said, quote, "I liken the Carrier Dome as having all the charm and ambiance of a parking garage." I've never been in it, Vince, but I've driven by it, and I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same situation. I've never been inside, but that is what it looks like. Parking garages can be beautiful, but I don't think this would be one of them.
Oh, we have many beautiful parking garages in Pittsburgh. And
yeah.
There's some gems. You climb to the top of them and you see beautiful panoramic views, and people take wedding pictures on tops of parking garages. You could tailgate in a parking garage. They can be charming. This one, though, doesn't look too charming. Although, isn't it renovated? Didn't they get air conditioning or something recently?
You'd think they'd be looking to get heat before air conditioning. I mean, what?
I think it's always had heat. That would be psychotic to not have a heater in that place.
I didn't think it did have heat.
There's no heat.
I didn't think so.
That should be illegal. That's not humane. It's going to be cold there too. So will weather be a factor inside the dome? The only dome where weather is a factor. FLA Panther 813. Is this from Panther Lair as well?
Yeah.
As well?
Yeah.
Asked the question, will Addison transfer this offseason? Debated this a bit with some family today. If you're Jordan, after the season he's had and the possible unknown of who his starting QB will be next season, do you transfer to a top program after this run ends? Or does this cause Narduzzi to go out and hunt for a top quarterback transfer to keep Jordan satisfied? No. That would be, there's no precedent for this. Like, someone who has an amazing season like this, just because their quarterback leaves the program, that would be a rare occurrence. But I guess logically that kind of makes sense if you're just looking for somewhere to make sure your game tape looks good, play with a decent quarterback. I don't see it happening, though.
Yeah, you've got great, you've got already great game tape. You're in an offense that they've clearly designed to get you the ball. And I don't think, as great as Kenny Pickett's season has been, I think this Jordan Addison season it should not go unnoticed in terms of the future of the program. This wasn't all that long ago where Pitt was struggling to complete a pass. And what receiver wants to go play in that kind of offense? But here, it's kind of showing if you're a top tier receiver, Pitt can make you a star and get you the ball, and you could be a top player in the country and possibly a top draft pick. But this is I cannot believe, and this I think is just the tip of the iceberg. I could already see it now. People were going to be panicking with no Kenny Pickett. I know it's going to happen. People need to enjoy what's happening right now, but also, I know Nick Patty didn't necessarily look great on Saturday, but I think the times that he has filled in, specifically a couple years ago, I think he's done well.
Well, his hair looked great. His hair looked good.
Yeah, that's
play
true.
Maybe not.
Well, that's the first thing you got to do. Davis Bevel, I think he looked very good in the spring game this year after his freshman season last year. And then Alan Narduzzi was on one of your old co-workers' shows, Jim Rome, this past week. And he was asked about a similar question like this, and he kind of said, when he not necessarily this, but he was asked about Kenny Pickett when he knew that he was going to be very good, and he said whenever he was a scout team quarterback, he had a lot of high hopes from him. He could see the talent, and he said, I think we have another guy on the scout team that's going to do very well. And from what I understand, Nate Yarnell, the big tall drink of water out of Austin, Texas quarterback freshman this year, he's the scout team quarterback. So maybe there's something that maybe he's going to be the guy next year. So I feel especially with Mark Whipple there, way he's developed these quarterbacks, it's not saying it's going to be Kenny Pickett right off the bat. And maybe there won't be a Kenny Pickett, but I feel that the quarterback position is going to be in good hands going forward. I really do.
I love the optimism, and I love it that Narduzzi's already campaigning to keep Jordan Addison from going to Alabama on the Jim Rome show. I love it. What a Pirate fan mentality to have. Oh man, Nick Saban's going to come for all of our good players now because we won the Coastal, and we won some individual awards. Doubt it. Highly doubt it. Last piece of Pitternet action. Kurt Warner was on Twitter giving Kenny Pickett some love. Said just the fact that he wears 2 gloves all the time should give him a leg up because only studs do that.
Yeah.
Kenny does wear 2 gloves, although he did take one of them off in the rain. So apparently gloves don't work in the rain. I don't know. I've never thrown a ball with a glove. Vince, you? Yeah,
I have. It's difficult. It was difficult for somebody like me, obviously.
Yeah. You're not Kenny Pickett. He's probably got giant hands to grip it, and he gets that extra grip. Whatever he's doing, it's working. And it's really one of the great stories in recent college football, that just the fact the Mannings had input in telling him to stay. And, he did his due diligence and looking at his draft stock. It's it's not just a great lesson for football players, but also football players as business people and looking at their own value and looking at their own future. It's a great college student story is Kenny Pickett's, considering he's the top-ranked QB on a lot of draft boards. What an amazing year, amazing decision, and just 2 games left of it. I'm just enjoying the ride. Probably, sorry, Tyler Palko, the greatest Pitt quarterback in my lifetime.
Yeah. I think that's. I think that debate's ended. Actually, Kenny Pickett, he has cemented that, but he
smashed through our ironclad bias for Tyler Palko on this show.
He's going to put an exclamation point on it at the end of this season.
So the Pitternet all talking about Kenny and Pitt winning the Coastal. Around town, people are making plans and really getting hyped up for the ACC championship game. Hope the Pitt team's not looking. Players aren't looking forward, I hope, but fans, of course, are making plans for Charlotte. You're making plans for Charlotte, Vince. Everybody is.
Yeah, I think I might make some plans for that. But I talked to a lot of people interested in going to this ball game here for the ACC title. It's huge for the program. They were in it, several years ago, but now they're in it and with a chance to win it, a better chance than they had then, and that's certainly going to get people excited.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing. Time to find out what the Yinzers are saying.
You going down to Charlotte?
Nah, my cousin's getting married that weekend.
What, they Penn State fans or something?
No, they just didn't think they'd be any good,
Yeah, they still ain't even a 10-win team in that.
Hell to Pitt.
What the Yinzers are saying.
So that's what the Yinzers are saying. Maybe not everybody's going to make it down to Charlotte for that big game.
But sorry for those suckers who got roped into going into December weddings, people making plans thinking there wouldn't be an ACC title game. What kind of fan?
It is quite the time, Alan. These are unprecedented times that we live in. I don't think that would have happened under normal circumstances, but they are what they are. And Alan, we got to talk about here. There's some big games in this rivalry weekend, but also some big games for the ACC Atlantic Division. Pitt's opponent has not been decided yet. We got to talk about those scenarios now.
Oh, college football! Don't you dare think it's over in the Atlantic. It's a three-way dance. It could wind up any which way. I need to talk this out, Vince, because I'm not sure how I'm going to predict it goes by the end of this show. I really like things about all three teams still alive to be Pitt's opponent in Charlotte.
Yep. So we're going to go over the scenarios here for everybody. First of all, we have Wake Forest. They're in first place right now. If they win their game this week and they're playing Boston College, then they're in. No questions asked. They are in. North Carolina State, they are still involved. They're going to be playing a game against North Carolina this Friday, actually, day after Thanksgiving, Alan. If they need to win that game, and they need to have Wake Forest lose. And then there's big bad Clemson still sneaking around, still holding on. Their Atlantic title hopes maybe on life support, but they still have a very good chance. They have a huge rivalry game against South Carolina on the road this week. They will need to have Wake Forest and NC State lose in order to sneak in that Atlantic championship title for the Coastal game.
Yeah, it's a long shot for Clemson there because they really are relying on a whole lot to happen. And then for me personally, Vince, I've been excited for a Pitt-Wake Forest matchup all season long, but then I just see that NC State's available on that day possibly, and I just can't help but think of really my most upsetting loss last season, watching them lose to the Wolfpack. That sucked. I would love some revenge for that one. And I think Kenny Pickett would too.
I think so. I agree with you. I'll tell you, Clemson is the team I do not want to play at all. That I think that would be the toughest game. I know Pitt already beat them, but I still think they're playing better right now. They're getting healthier. That is a tough team to play against. I think Wake Forest, that they're a challenge in their own right for sure. With their high-powered offense. NC State, I don't think they're as good as the other two, but they are just Pitt always struggles against them for some reason. So I think I'd rather play Wake Forest first, then NC State, then Clemson, which is the reverse order of how likely it is to happen. So we'll see here. I guess let's talk about some of these games, Alan, and then maybe we'll make some sense out of who we think it's going to be.
Well, is Jerkovic playing?
Yes,
against Wake Forest.
As far as I know, yes.
So I'm picking Boston College to win at home.
Okay, so Boston College.
I don't think we're getting Wake.
Okay, so Wake Forest is a 4.5-point favorite on the road against Boston College. You're picking against them. You're picking Boston College in that game. I'm actually leaning. I think Wake Forest is going to win this game. I don't know if I would lay the 4.5 points. I think it's going to be a close game. Boston College is playing much better as of late, so I could see that. I think this game really could go either way. I do.
Yeah, Boston College is bowl bound, and they've won 2 of their last 3. They lost to FSU, who's also on the come up, playing pretty well down the stretch. They're looking to be bowl eligible. Man, the ACC, really, I'm proud of it this year. You know, I'll just say that as we look at these 3 games, I'm proud of the ACC. Maybe it's not juggernauting it with a top tier playoff team, but it's damn good college football, tons of NFL talent, great quarterbacks for once up and down the league, and really a variety of teams. There are good defenses, there are great offenses, and it's not easy to pick all these games when you're talking about the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, this is a conference. They got 4 teams ranked in the top 25 at the moment, and you can make an argument that a team like Pitt, who, if you look at all these advanced stats and analytics, is right up there with the best of them. I truly believe that, and if Pitt would have been ranked higher at the start of the season, that they would be ranked much higher now. I mean, you look at some of the teams ahead of them in the rankings, the playoff rankings. You got Wisconsin, Iowa. I mean, this is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned, those teams being ranked ahead of Pitt. I think Pitt would wipe the floor with either of those teams. But that's a discussion for another time. NC State, Alan, is a 6-point favorite against North Carolina. NC State has struggled against North Carolina in recent history. Do you think they get it done here to give them a chance to get to that ACC title game?
I like their chances. North Carolina has been just really solid, I think, throughout the last 3 weeks. They gave Pitt a huge scare. They could have been going into this game with a 3-game winning streak, if you count their win over Wofford last week, which I do. Shout out to Wofford. But it's a rivalry game too. But NC State's getting it at home, and that's why I like their chances of winning it and getting in. It's playing into their hands. They're the home team this weekend. When you think about what Wake Forest has to do, at least they have to go on the road against a hungry Boston College team. This game is going to be good, I think, NC State and UNC, because it's a rivalry game, but maybe because the Tar Heels are already bowl eligible. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's a rivalry game. I don't expect them to let off the gas at all. Who knows what Mac Brown's going to do in this game? Go for it. It could be crazy. They're playing teams with nothing to lose, both of them, Wake and UNC, or Wake and NC State, excuse me. So I'm going to pick the team at home to end up winning the Atlantic. So I think Pitt's going to face NC State in the ACC title game.
I actually think North Carolina is going to win this game.
Really?
I do. I think that they're not great, but they are just tough for some reason. I think that they have a chance to come out here and get a victory. NC State, I just don't know. I mean, they're a solid team. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like Sam Howell's going to, that offense has been getting so much better second half of the season. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win this game.
I mean, do you realize that NC State early in the season, I'll give you, but they held Mississippi State to just 24 points. That's almost like shutting out Mississippi State, if you're holding them under 24. Like, that's good. I think
it is. They're a very good team. Don't get me wrong. I really
defense.
think that
a good defense.
I think that game could go either way. I think it's very similar to the Wake Forest Boston College game. I think it could go either way.
Well, I think we both feel confident Pitt's not getting Clemson again.
I'm not. I think
Really?
both those games are toss-ups enough that Clemson could make it in there. I really do.
All right. Well, let us know what you think at H2P Show before the kickoffs. Obviously, we got one on Friday. We'll be watching them very closely. I'm looking at our PFF here, Vince, and both NC State and Wake are extra favorites on the PFF green line, so that they like the analytics like both teams to cover, not only win but cover by more than what they're favored by. So it's going to be maybe it will be that shootout that I think the ACC brass are hoping for. Wake and Pitt. We'll see.
Yeah.
Either way, Pitt's facing a team from Carolina. No matter which way it goes.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. North Carolina. And so it's going to be a road game no matter what in the ACC championship game. We also have some big games outside of the ACC, Ohio State, Michigan. It's all coming down to this. It's hilarious. Michigan's been rolling, but they're 8.5-point dogs at home. And I think they'll probably lose by 3 touchdowns, I'm going to say. Ohio
Do you
State.
really think so?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I don't, for some reason, I feel like, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I think this might finally be a time that Michigan is going to at least keep this game close. I don't know if they're going to win. I think I'm going to pick them here. I think they're going to cover this 8.5. I really do. I think that those pass rushers they have are going to get after Stroud. I just look at, whenever Ohio State went up against good defenses this year, they didn't play their best, and I think Michigan has enough on offense to keep this game close. So I'm going to pick Michigan.
All right. You could go die on that hill with Harbaugh. I'm not. I've learned that lesson. It's too easy to just not take Michigan anymore.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it.
The Sooners take on Oklahoma State, and the Cowboys are favored at home by 4 in this Big 12 matchup. Vince.
Yeah. This game here. This is another case where Oklahoma State has just really struggled to beat Oklahoma. They haven't been able to do it very often in this series, but it seems like they've, at least here, it seems like they finally got the advantage. Oklahoma is just, I don't know. I mean, I just haven't been that impressed with them this year. Even though they are a very talented team, it does seem like they don't know exactly what's going on with their offense. Oklahoma State, their defense has been playing extremely well. They are at home. This is a massive game for them, and they have a ton to play for. They could get in that playoffs. That's why I'm going to be picking Oklahoma State in this game.
Wow, and the way it shakes out, right, for the Big 12, the winner of this game's in, obviously.
Oklahoma State is actually already in. I think it's if Oklahoma wins
because they beat Baylor.
Yes, if Oklahoma wins, then they will have a rematch in the Big 12 title game. If Oklahoma State wins, it will be Baylor that will make that Big 12 title game.
Assuming Baylor beats Texas Tech, of course.
Yes, that is assuming that.
Which definitely will happen. Dave Aranda's not going to lose to a transitioning Red Raiders program, so the Big 12 is really going to be decided for their championship game in this matchup, and I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I go with the chalk when it comes to these big rivalry games when there's a lot on the line for both teams, Vince.
Okay, I can see that.
It's Oklahoma State in the damn playoff would just in a year Pitt wins the ACC. I couldn't stomach it, Vince. I couldn't take it, so I'm hoping it doesn't happen. Pitt, Syracuse, number 17 against unranked Orange in Syracuse. Pitt favored by 13 and a half.
Yeah, 13 and a half. Am I the only one that's a little surprised that this line is as low as it is? I would have thought it would have been a lot higher. I guess Pitt has played a few closer games these past couple weeks, but those were against, really high-powered offenses, not what they're going to see here. Pitt is banged up on offense, but they've still shown the ability to get it done. I don't know. It seems like Pitt should be able to cover this game easily. Maybe I'm not sure why I'm nervous. Just looking at the line, I think we'll win. But I'm going to go with Pitt winning this game. I'm going to say we'll say 41 to 16.
I like it. Yeah, and if Pitt's not covering, that means Syracuse is really eating up a lot of clock, and I'm going to hate that. They're going to be holding on to the ball, slow, methodical drives. That's not happening. No way. No how. Not with Kenny Pickett in this moment. Not with Pitt on the precipice of having 10 wins finally in a season. Pitt's, struggled to really cover or win by a lot in the Dome in the last decade, but they've never gone there with really so much to play for. I can't believe someone would try to tell you that Pitt should sit anyone this week. That's stupid. There's so much to play for, and covering is important too, because Pitt loves to do that. 13.5, I like it. 2-touchdown win. Let's say 42-25.
Okay. I'd be okay with that.
I would love that. And that means Pitt's going into the ACC title game in Charlotte, North Carolina, with 10 wins, Vince.
Yeah, how about that?
Just like we predicted on the first episode of this season.
I don't know, but I know we at least talked about it.
No, we did not predict. If you go back, you could go back and check if that's what we said. Whatever. If you want to go back in the archive and listen, you're welcome to do that, gentle Pitt fan, gentle listener you. Okay, I'll be honest. Neither of us predicted 10 wins and an ACC title game appearance, but here we are.
Yep, here we are. We're just 60 minutes away from that. So it's going to be an exciting Saturday night. I'm expecting a lot of fireworks. Hopefully, a smooth victory for the Panthers, and then we could get geared up for that big battle in Charlotte.
Oh man, and then you're going to be driving down to Charlotte, and we're going to be having to put. I'm getting requests, people hitting us up at H2P show, people telling me, calling me on the phone. Are you going to do a special for the ACC title game? Are you going to do extra bonus content? Are you going to do a best of show? What are you going to do? It's the ACC title game, Vince. I don't know, but it's going to be a special show next week either way. We'll see what we put together. We'll know it'll be good either way. It might just be an entire show dedicated to lobbying for Kenny for Heisman. It might just sound like a political campaign, an infomercial.
You've been stumping all over the country for Kenny to win that Heisman Trophy.
We might even need to get James Carville on the show next week to discuss Kenny Pickett and how we campaigned for him to win the Heisman.
I'm sure if he would have known this, he would have been campaigning with his pocketbook in order to get Kenny to LSU this year. I mean, it may have saved Coach O's job.
Yeah, I would love to get that question. That's where I miss Louisiana radio. Someone calling and saying, "What do you think? Can Kenny just stay one more year and transfer down to LSU to play
for the Tigers?
Play for the Tigers one more year of eligibility?" No. We'll have fun next week, though, talking about Kenny's Heisman hopes. Hopefully he keeps those alive against Syracuse, and we'll make it a special one. It's the end of the season coming up, and what a season it's been, Vince. Rolling down this ACC road, easily my favorite Pitt ACC football season of all time. The basketball one, I'm still waiting. Actually, basketball, I'm at the point almost where I'm going to start doing shows, episodes where we campaign to just tear down the Pete and build a football stadium. What do we even need that building for anyway, other than it's a really good gym for the students?
It does provide a lot of amenities. I will say that. But I will the women's basketball team, Alan, undefeated last time I checked. I believe 4-0 on the season. So they've had a very good start, the best they've looked in quite a while. So there is some good basketball being played there.
Yep. And of course, wrestling getting fired up recently too. Pitt Panthers athletics being covered here for you as always, but we are in a football frenzy right now. It's Thanksgiving week. Hopefully everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you enjoy your Thanksgiving, Vince. I'm going to enjoy mine, and then we're going to watch Pitt beat Syracuse and reconvene here next week before you head down to Charlotte. What do you say?
That sounds like an excellent plan. I can't wait to get to it. Hope everybody has a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and hail to Pitt.
I love it. Everybody, eat your vegetables and hail to Pitt.
Always dreamed about